Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. This is an emergency podcast. Unfortunately, our other two esteemed regular hosts are somewhat tied up today, probably on our most newsworthy day. So, unfortunately, you've been left with yours truly. So we'll get the apologies in straight away. This isn't my usual gig. I'm not a natural like Pete and Rob, but I'll do my best, along with my guests, to dig into and talk everything Marti Cifuentes and Leicester City after he was sacked today by the club. As usual, quick plug for the website, www.forfoxsake.news. I'm sure there'll be plenty going on this week, all about today's events, where it all went wrong, and what's next for the club. There's plenty on there already. Obviously, Pete did his Marti Cifuentes piece, so that'll be very apt at the moment. I've done a piece recently about Ibrahim Diabate, the guy we've been linked with from Gais in Sweden. We spoke to a Swedish journalist who covers him out there. So have a look, head on to www.forfoxsake.news and subscribe to us, and you'll be able to read all of our great content. Lots of stuff happening every single day. All I know is as well, I'm going to have to write my 5 things piece. I wrote it last night. Things have changed since, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get going. Our guests today in this emergency pod are Ashley Parker and James Turrell. And let's get right to it, guys. So, James, let's start with you. Initial thoughts. Was it the right move and was it the right time?
Well, if you go, I mean, I've been going through some stats, to try and be relatively professional before I came on here. I think this is our first emergency podcast. So we're like the rest is politics now or something. If you look, our goals conceded this year is 43. That puts us in 22nd. Expected goals against, it puts us in 21st. Shots on target faced, 20th. Errors leading to goal, 20th. Errors leading to shot, 23rd. Clean sheets, with only 3 all season, and that puts us in 23rd as well. So regardless of, all we've talked about, and in particular me, is the structural problems. The club's got no identity, blah, blah, blah. Those bare numbers, even if you have got the club with the most perfect structure that football has ever created, you are going to get sacked with those numbers. The only issue is, not even an issue. I mean, first of all, who's going to replace him? I guess we'll talk about that in a bit. Doesn't seem to be any outstanding candidate waiting. And I think that might be partly the reason that it's taken so long. Because, 23 games, I think it is, without a clean sheet. We've only won 2 games in a row twice this season. So why now and not 2 months ago? Now, you could argue that it'd be becoming untenable, losing to Oxford like we did. The last 3 or 4 performances have been really, really poor. And yesterday was really, really bad. It's the worst performance from a Leicester team I've seen in a while. So, yeah, he had to go. I hold no kind of anger towards him. He seems like a nice guy. And I just think the job wasn't right for him. I think his style of football wasn't working, and he probably is a little bit stubborn, a bit of an ideologue. But yeah, it's a really bad situation. So yeah, he had to go, but there's all kinds of, not doubt around it, but I don't think it's as simple as some people are saying.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's got to that time, hasn't it, that it just couldn't go on any longer. And in an ideal world, there's 8-9 days left of the transfer window. Whether we've got anything available to spend, I think Top's come out tonight and said that there is money for the right person if needs be. But it's why didn't it happen sooner? I think we could all see where it was going. Do you agree, Ash? Do you think it's something that had to happen and maybe should have happened earlier?
Yeah, I think you're both spot on, really. It was never going to work. We could see that pretty early on, The writing's been on the wall for a while, and then the last couple of performances have just been the final nail in the coffin. because he looked void of ideas. The players don't look interested. And let's be about right. They're not blameless in all this because they've downed tools, and it won't be the first time they've downed tools for a manager. They've got previous. So yeah, I think he was up against it from the start. He's a nice enough chap, but I just think he's just out of his depth. And when players are not, it doesn't seem like he's singing from the same hymn sheet, then you've got no chance.
No, I completely agree. It's he's been dealt a really tough hand. Let's just go back to yesterday. Conceding in the first couple of minutes when you already got the crowd on your back, it was just a recipe for disaster straight away. And it's against a team that are 23rd in the league, are look nailed on to be relegated, and we've given them a lifeline, considering that we're possibly going to have those deductions down the line. We're going to have to probably pick up a lot more points than they are, and a lot more points than the teams around us. And yes, we're mid-table currently. We have slightly better points ratio than they do. But looking at what they were doing yesterday, they were battling for their manager. We just seemed to be giving up, and I think that was probably the biggest thing for me that tipped me over the edge yesterday. And that was where I thought, you know what, it's time to make a change. What did you think about yesterday, James? How did you think it went? Do you think there was any kind of positives to come out of the match?
Well, I'm always reticent to say players have down tools, players don't care, because I think most of the time it isn't true. But they do look kind of lost. I think they've probably given up the season, is probably the best way of phrasing it. And they and maybe the club as a whole don't really see I bet if they wish they could snap their fingers and we would finish 21st, or what position you have to be to not go down, they would. But yesterday was really bad. It was there was no real tactical thought. There was no fluidity to the play. We were, as has been the case for the whole season, relying on one or two players to do world-class or top-level things in order for us to get a chance or to score, which is one of the reasons why we've got such low... we're so near the bottom in terms of statistics, but in the middle of the table in terms of points, because there aren't many teams in the league that have got Fatawu who can suddenly score from 25 yards. So, yeah, I think one of the things that we might have to accept as fans, and, me as obviously Andy is a proper journalist and me as a micro one. Maybe part of the problem is us. And I wrote about this at the start of the season, that maybe we as a fan base need to have a recalibration of what Leicester City is. And that maybe if we spend 3 or 4 years in the Championship, it isn't the end of the world. And actually, if you look at Leicester's history, it's kind of what it's always been. And maybe this is who we are, and we need to be slightly more accepting of that. But that is no excuse for how poorly they played yesterday. So yeah, it's a big mess, and there are lots of moving parts. And unless we can somehow convince Jurgen Klopp to come, I can't really see it's going to be one man that's going to come in and be the Messiah and fix everything.
Do you agree with that, Ash? Do you think it's partly on us as well as fans that we've got to have a bit more realism. Obviously, we've had this success over the last 10, 12 years that's taken us to unbelievable heights. But obviously now we are. I mean, I've seen comments this week that it's been the worst it's ever been. You look back at the times under Peter Taylor, or look back at the times under David Pleat. They're the comments that I've seen, that it's even worse than that. And I'm not quite sure. I'm not old enough for the David Pleat era as such, but I was there for the Peter Taylor era, and that was very, very poor. So do you think it's something on us as fans that we need to probably have a bit more realism?
I think as fans, I think we're allowed to, dream, and not just because we're little old Leicester City, shall we say, the downfall should not be as drastic as it is being. With the fall from grace is just.
Oh no, definitely shouldn't have been. Where's all that money from the Champions League gone?
Exactly. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to say, we should be in the top 4 of the Premier League every season, but for it to get this point of, it's toxic down there at the moment. It should have never got this bad, and that is due to bad management from the board of directors and giving contracts to mediocre players on mega dough. And like, for instance, Harry Winks, James said earlier about not downing tools, but he's a prime example of that fact. He has down tools, and not just for Marti either, for Van Nistelrooy as well. Well, he's had the since Enzo left. Let's be about right.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the thing. I think you look at that squad of players, and who's there fighting for the badge? Who's there fighting for the cause? You've got some.
That wage packet, what they're on, the salaries that they're on, does it match their ability?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where we've probably got to have a bit more realism. We need to, the whole club and the fans, and that need to have that little realism that we are where we are at the moment. We need to rebuild. We've done it before. We've rebuilt before. It's somewhere that we got to go back to basics, almost, kind of thing. Look to what we did when Mandaric came in. I know there was issues originally when Mandaric came in, but we found the right man, and that's probably where we're at the moment. We need to find the right person for this job to build some kind of identity, build some kind of culture at the club that's been missing now. I'd argue it's been missing since before Maresca. Whilst it was decent under Maresca, they were expected to go back up under Enzo. But was there a culture there? Was there an identity at that time? There probably was when we won the FA Cup back in 2021 under Brendan, but then obviously it all started to go wrong. So that's where I'm at. I think we need to do a reset. It's not a full reset. We need people behind the scenes that know what they're doing, and I think that's probably the biggest issue. Top was back yesterday for the first time. I think it was in 2 months. So for me, I probably thought this might happen today or yesterday, that he might get the sack if things went pear-shaped, and obviously they did. Just him being back in the country, I just thought, this could be telling us something. If it goes wrong, we could be getting a new manager. We could be getting a change, and I think we've got to look at that. We've got to look at the state of the club, like you both said. Where do we go from here? There's issues with John Rudkin. There's issues with points deductions and PSR, other things, the transfer restrictions. It looks like we're only able to get loans in, I think I've seen today, rather than going out and buying somebody. So where do we start, James? That's the thing. Is it now? Is the manager the main issue? And obviously we've made that change, and we're going to have to get somebody in. But is it bigger than that? Is it people behind the scenes first that we need to try and sort out?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because it's funny, isn't it? In the last 5 years, fans have started to know the names of sporting directors and technical directors more than ever, really. Can you imagine asking someone in 2005 who the technical director? Brighton was, something like that. They would never know. And there's a certain element you can lean towards that. Rudkin has to go. That's been apparent really since the mistake not to sack Brendan Rodgers earlier, when Graham Potter, Unai Emery, and Robert De Zerbi were all available. And the club needs a bit of a change. Any kind of organisation, it's very rare for somebody to exist at like a kind of very good level for. I mean, how long has he been at Leicester City now, just in general? Like 30 odd years in all his various roles, because he was like an academy coach, and then he was this and that, and it's not like he's always been technical director of football. He's been there for so long, and to a certain extent the club is built in his image as much as it is in the owner's image. So, and we need a technical director as well, whatever that means, like who actually really knows what these people do. Ultimately, I think in terms of towards the rest of the season, I think if the points deduction is put off until the end of the year, which it might be, I mean, who knows really? I mean, we're just about to go into February. I think we should be okay to stay up. I think if we get a points deduction, we will be in a lot of trouble. I mean, do you just kind of see... Pardon?
As far as I'm aware, James, what I've heard is that the points deduction may be coming in the next week or two.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's been said by a few people in the know kind of thing. Whether that is actually the case,
you're off the record sources.
Yeah, kind of thing. So it's apparently coming in the next week or two. So that could be a worry, but we still don't know how much it's going to be, whether it's 6, 9, 12 points, and if they're going to appeal or anything like that. So
if it's 9 points, we'll go into the relegation places. If it's 6, we'll stay above. I think it's a mixture of both. I think in terms of the long-term future of the club, it is about working out what the club is and what we want to be going forward. Because what we're going to be ultimately, unless we're going to change 120 years of history, is a yo-yo club, right? That's what we've always been, and what most of the teams around us and of our size, in terms of stadium, in terms of revenue, in terms of wages able to be paid, that's kind of the level. The question then becomes, are you going to be a yo-yo club that every time you go up and down, that it becomes a crisis? Or are you going to be the type of club that can go up and down fairly fluidly because you have a really strong structure in terms of continuity of personnel, wage structure, academy, which I think we've neglected for a long time. The academy, we have quite a good group coming through at the minute, but you're kind of throwing them into a fire a little bit. Ben Nelson, I think, is going to be a fantastic player. But is he going to be a fantastic player if he's playing left back next to Vestergaard and whoever else was playing? And everyone loves Hamza. I love the fact that he got booked while he wasn't on the pitch. It's great. It's great fun. I don't think he's a right back that can come into the centre of midfield, though. So I guess we're going to come on to who we're going to get in, and I just really have no idea. Maybe we could get like Tony Pulis and Mick McCarthy, and they could do their podcast from the dugout. But yeah, I don't know.
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, Ashley, Andy King's been put in charge. I noticed that it wasn't in charge till the end of the season. It was just in caretaker charge at the moment. That was what was said. Obviously, he's been around under Van Nistelrooy. He was around, obviously, and worked with Marti Cifuentes. But I think I said earlier when I posted something that Andy King is Leicester City. I don't put much of the blame onto him, kind of thing. I'm quite happy that he's been given it interim for now. I want to don't get me wrong, I want a proper coach manager that's got experience in. I think that's what we need going down the line. But for now, until we can identify who that is, I'm quite happy with Andy King. Are you of the same opinion, or is it something that you're worried about bringing Kingy in?
I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit worried about giving it King, just for the fact that he's been part of the coaching regime for the last 2 appointments, which I know he doesn't get much say in, final line, but he's there, he's part of it. And also, I just think he'll get eaten alive by, the players' attitudes stink. They need someone that's going to be stronger. I don't think it's not ready for that yet. It's quite unfair to put him in that position, in my opinion. He's never had a man. These players, they look like uncoachable sometimes. You look at them and you think, Jesus Christ, whoever comes in has got a job on their hands. Me personally, I would probably try and get Gary Rowett until the end of the season as just a short term, and then reevaluate in the summer and go from there, because I just think the job's too big for Andy King at the moment. But that's just my opinion.
James, what do you think about Andy King coming in?
Well, it's fairly logical to give it to him. It kind of happens when most clubs sack a manager. They give it to the most senior. I actually don't know if he was the most senior coach of the club. And again, but this, he's there. You may as well give it to him for a couple of games anyway. I think, but it's emblematic of something else. Of Top, has he made this decision last night, just like on a whim? Has he thought for the last month, it's going to be all right, and then he's got to today, yes, last night, and he's gone, no, he's got to go? If you're thinking that way, he should be building up, and hopefully, you hope, but it doesn't seem like he's got a list of people. So ideally, someone can take over by next weekend. That's how you want a football club to run. When Brighton get rid of their manager, the next one is in straight away. Same with Brentford. And we can't all be, we don't always want to be harping on to the 3 Bs of Brighton, Brentford and Bournemouth, but they are so well run that I guess it's natural. We're just yo-yoing between everything. We get rid of Steve Cooper without a plan when we shouldn't have got rid of Steve Cooper. And then we get Van Nistelrooy in for what reason? He won 4 caretaker games at Man United.
2 against 2.
Yeah, 2 against Leicester.
Come down.
And then we let him stay as manager when what was it? 10 games in a row at home where we didn't score. We're just like, you're watching the Titanic go down slowly while eating popcorn. And then, we wait all summer to hire a person who got mid-table with QPR. Like, what do we expect to happen when we're making these decisions? So, yeah, Andy King, he may as well. Why not? He might do all right. You never know. I do agree with Ashley, though, that it is very difficult for him. And I don't know who I should really know this, considering we're on a Leicester City podcast. I don't know who we're playing next week. My excuse is I'm writing a book.
Charlton. It's an early kickoff. Sorry.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah. And I bet Sky are so glad they picked all our games. What a good bit of money. What a good bit of business that was for them. If we're 2-0 down at half time, say on Saturday, it's going to be really difficult for him. You can only hope that the fans just kind of give him a pass.
I think they will. I think he'll get given a bit of leeway by the fans. I think that's half the reason why I think they might actually stick with him till the end of the season, because he's the cheapest option and is the easiest option available. Because there's no way that I believe that the club's got a plan in place to recruit the next manager. That's my opinion. I don't think they've got a plan.
I think you're right. I don't think they know what they want, what they need. what kind of they've always obviously in recent times gone down the route of a foreign manager playing the possession game. Is that the kind of football we need at the minute? Before we get on to who other than Andy King, let's have a look at the comments of what some people can say. Here's Mr. Pete Selby. He is watching, and when he's not doing his greyhounds, that's where he is at the minute. He's putting his CV down to Philbit Way. I'm sure it might go in the bin, Pete, but hopefully not. Hello to our friends at Blue Tinted Glasses, but yeah, about time now. I think we all agree there. A few others. Who we got? We got Blue Fox Forever. Hello, Blue Fox Forever. Stats don't lie, like you've said. Collective responsibility, and it's definitely not going to be a quick fix. We got Glenn, who agrees, saying hello, Glenn Carrington. John Rudkin needs to go. And on the back of that, Tony, a regular commenter on our streams, and got to question the guy who has overseen 4 managers in 18 months, 100%.
6 permanent managers since the FA Cup win.
100%. And I think that's why when we talk about the club and changing it up, and the book stops at the top, obviously, unless Top's going to sell up. And I don't think many of us want him to sell up. There are elements that do want him to sell up and think he's took us too far, kind of thing. It's those below him, and obviously his go-to guy is John Rudkin, but he's obviously failing in his job at the moment. Here's an interesting one from Jono, another regular contributor to the podcast. Give it to Kingy now and let him get Huth and Albrighton in his assistance. Now, I recently went to a evening with Albrighton and Huth, and they were both there, and they both turned around and said that they'd offered to speak to the club and talk to players and things like that in recent times, but they'd had nothing back. Wes Morgan was the same. He was there that night as well. So that's an interesting thought.
I'm surprised that Wes Morgan's not been given something at the club, considering he was a wardrobe on legs, but he's the greatest captain in the club's history. No offense to Matt Elliott.
He was given an ambassador role at the club.
Yeah, but I mean like an actual thing, not like wearing medallions at because he's and he's actually taken the director of football course. That's what he's been wanting to do since before he retired. So it seems odd that they've not given him a junior role to try and prime him for when Rudkin eventually leaves.
I think that's why he got drifted out, because he was getting under Rudkin's feet and they didn't want him to. Right. And that's it. I think there's a lot going on with Rudkin.
Yeah, because he seems like the natural replacement, right? It seems really obvious, unless he's not very good at what he does, which he could well be. Who knows? But I doubt that.
He's obviously up the road at Forest at the minute doing the scouting. But yeah, I agree, and I know there's been elements I've seen on socials that people are saying that we don't want these people giving our guys like jobs for the boys kind of thing. But I think when you get to the people who won the Premier League, your likes of your Albrightons, your likes of your Wes Morgans, and even to a degree like your Jamie Vardy's down the line kind of thing, they epitomise what the club is, what the attitude, what the character is.
They've been there, they've done that. There's no like.
It's also like it's not like we have to put them in charge of the first team immediately, but they could be working with the under-15s, or I'm sure Huth could help the centre backs with some defensive training and that type of thing. It's about building some kind of cohesion and some emotional culture within the club.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we need. So let's have a chat then about names. I think Pete's offered an opinion further up. I'll go through a few first, kind of thing. We've got he's offered Lee Carsley as a name, obviously to England. I think he's under 21 coach. It's a name I think he was linked last time before Marti came in.
He was in charge before Tuchel got the England job, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think again it's somebody who's got obviously a growing reputation. But again, would you want to leave the England setup to come in a club that are in the shambles that we are at the moment? So he's. I mean, I mentioned I sat with a couple of guys yesterday at the match, and names that were bandied about. Gary Rowett was one. Ashley, that you mentioned earlier. The other was Neil Lennon. Obviously, is at Dunfermline, I think it is at the minute. Somebody like him would he come in and rock the boat and get the players to where they need to be? And he wouldn't have any messing around, would he? At the end of the day, so there's people like him, and obviously we're not. The issue with him is he's obviously in a club already at the moment. We're probably not going to have the money to go in and pay compensation somewhere. So who is it we do go with? Let's start with Ash on that one. You've said Rowett. Is there anybody else that you think?
I think we've just, it's all right drawing a list up of who you want. It's who can we get? Because let's face it, like, it's a poison chalice, the job at the moment. I mean, who wants to work under Rudkin, really? Let's be about right. But out of the options, I think Gary Rowett would be my short term till the end of the season, because he kept Oxford up last season. So, obviously we are in a relegation battle, whether we like it or not. When the points deduction that's where we're going to be. So for me, I think it'd be a safe option. It'd be solid. Nothing spectacular, but I just think we need a bit of, a bit of grit about us, and I don't think he'd take no nonsense from the players. A long term, it'd probably be the ex Southampton manager, I can't remember. I know I can pronounce his name.
Ralph Hasenhüttl or whatever his name is.
Hasenhüttl, yeah.
I think I won't mind it down here.
Here's one for it. Here's a name that's Tony said. Mark Robbins, obviously at Stoke at the minute. Obviously got a very good CV. Coventry and Stoke doing a decent job. Does a decent job. Decent Championship manager. Again, he's in a club. Compensation would have to be paid, but he is a former Leicester player. But is he somebody that you'd think could be an option?
I just don't think we'd get him.
Yeah, according to Planet Football, now I'm not entirely sure how reputable it is, but they've got Russell Martin favourite at 5-1, which I think would be a bad move.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Keane second at 7-1, which could be interesting, but why would you leave a title, as it says here, why would you leave a title fight in Hungary to come and manage Leicester? More money, I suppose, but Mark Robbins is third at 8-1, then Rowett fourth at 9-1, and then Carsley 10-1, and joint 12-1 is Kevin Muscat and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Those names don't really, spring excitement from the depths of you.
But that's where they are, though.
Yeah, I know. I think Lee Carsley would be a good appointment. If you wanted to read Rob Draper his book Dear England about how the FA changed under Southgate, Cooper was a big character in that, and Lee Carsley's a big character in that. Clearly thinks very deeply about football. But again, as you said, why would you want to leave a nice job coaching the under-21s or whatever he does at St George's Park? But also, you've got to hire someone who is prepared mentally and kind of in terms of their football ideas and thinking for a relegation fight, which kind of limits your options in terms of it being successful. If this was 5 years ago, the only choice would be Big Sam, wouldn't it? I suppose, right? But you don't want to necessarily jump to that, because we kind of did that with Dean Smith and it didn't work, did it? But we're in a very difficult position in terms of who our number one choice, which I guess would be, I don't know, Kieran McKenna or someone. Why would someone like that want to come? And then are you risking as going further backwards if you hire Neil Warnock or someone?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like I said, you both mentioned left field appointments. I mean, Blue Fox has said the same thing. Another left field appointment, and we've had a couple of comments about a couple. Obviously, Robbie Keane mentioned by Tony again. Obviously, he's over there in Hungary, isn't he? Doing a decentish job over there, I think. And at some point, he'll want to come back over and make a name for him over here. Could that be the answer for us? I mean, here's even hello to Dowkowski. He said Mark Hughes. Obviously, he's at Carlisle United at the minute. That's a really left field appointment.
It's a blast from the past.
It is a blast from the past. Again, it might be something interim kind of thing, but again, he's at Carlisle. We want. I appreciate the difference between Carlisle and Leicester City. All due respect to them, I don't think he'd leave them to come for an interim appointment. So it is difficult. It's one of them that you think, oh, who is there? I mean, for me, if I'm going to look at anybody I want, I'd love a Mark Robbins. I think he'd be great for us. I've dealt with him in the past. He's very impressive, but I just don't see him leaving Stoke City for us in the shambles that we are. I don't see anybody leaving a club as such for us at the moment. So, and that's where I think to myself, oh, it's just screaming out Russell Martin, and I don't want Russell Martin either. I don't think that's the way forward. He's obviously the favourite. He was mentioned last time, but then he went to Rangers and had obviously an awful time there. And I think he was found out a little bit at Rangers. And I think he wouldn't have the backing of the fans either over here. No. I think it's a Marty wannabe. It's very similar football. So it's hard. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on Russell Martin?
It's a bit like for like, isn't it?
Go on, James.
No, go on, Ashley.
No, I was just about. I would say I think it'd be doomed before he even got set foot into Seagrave. You know, the name just, you know, already everyone's gone. No, thank you, and rightly so. You know, his football. I don't think. One, we've not got the squad for this tippy-tappy football. It just doesn't. It's not working. You know, you need to play to your squad strength, and unfortunately, our squad is not capable of playing out from the back. It's shown that numerous times this season. You know, and sometimes you just have to play to the strength of your squad, and if that's playing in the opposition's half and knocking long balls, but you know, play it more direct, then you know, I don't think Russell Martin's the type of manager we need at the moment. Well,
there was an interesting comment yesterday. Again, I heard it at the ground, and I was walking. It was after the match, and I was walking behind, and they were like, "Why would we go and get somebody like Russell Martin, who is just doing the same kind of football that Marty has done, probably who Ruud did as well? When we haven't got the players, we need to have a reset and a rethink about the tactics, because we're a squad of players playing this system of football that doesn't suit them anymore." And for the first time yesterday, I did see a little bit of long ball. I think Vestergaard chucked a couple up towards the strikers, and
it's okay doing that if you've got a top.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen it for a while, and I thought, well, that's slightly different. And again, we don't know. Obviously, Vestergaard went up front. We don't know whether that was the players making that decision or whether it was Marty chucking him up there. And so we've got to think to ourselves, what kind of football side are we? We're not this tippy-tappy football team that played well under Maresca. Obviously, we found out again in the Premier League, which got us relegated, and obviously we're still trying to play that kind of game now. So Russell Martin is not the kind of person we're after. We need somebody. You've said it earlier, and I don't want him kind of thing, but you need somebody who's just going to come in and rip it up, like a Sam Allardyce type of person. So who is that modern day Sam Allardyce that we need? And it's really hard to try and work out who that is. And that's why I look at somebody like a Neil Lennon, but he's obviously in a club, and but he does have those Leicester links. He would make a difference for me. He would obviously get in a lot of trouble because he likes a bit of a fiery temperament. But would somebody like him, James, do you think he could probably do a job with us?
He could do. I mean, Russell Martin is kind of a pre-season manager. I think he needs a pre-season. I don't think he's the type of manager that you get in an emergency. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, when you say who's a modern day Sam Allardyce? I mean, Sam Allardyce might not like that, saying that we're making him out like he's super old. Maybe we should just get Big Sam in and see what happens.
You mentioned Warnock earlier. Somebody like
Yeah.
him, obviously, he still wants to do it. He's obviously well into his 70s now, kind of thing. But he does
Guardiola
do a job.
likes him.
He does ruffle feathers. So, again, Ash, do you think that's somebody? Do you think it's
the only trouble? There's too much player power these days, and they can't. They have more say than the managers now. You can't go in all guns blazing no more because they seem to just. You've lost the dressing room straight away. Then it's all you've got to have your arm round them, and you're this good, you're that good when they've not. When they really need to kick up the backside. Would I personally go with Big Sam or Neil Warnock? No, I don't think so. But
I think ideally Andy King could take us to the end of the season. We'll stay up by the skin of our teeth, and then hopefully we can actually do something in the summer.
I think he needs someone to come in with him, though, like as an advisory role to help him, because he won't be able to do it on his own. I mean,
yeah,
I think is Chris Powell? Is he at Luton now with Jack Wilshere?
Yeah, he's down there.
It's quite good to probably bring in and with Andy King to be a bit of a support, but obviously he's at Luton, so that's not going to happen. And then obviously you've got Nigel Pearson, but apparently he's not very well, so that might not be.
No, as far as I'm aware, I think that one's out of the question.
And I think, given the reason that he was fired, it would be a bit difficult for him to come back.
Yeah. An interesting comment from Blue Fox Forever. He says the pool of managers may get bigger after the World Cup. Certainly. Again, are we of the caliber to get a manager that's at the World Cup?
Not necessarily, but it will filter down, won't it? So there might be a lot of managers who lose their jobs because managers come up because of the World Cup, and then dun 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 like that. So that's something I was thinking about the other day, actually. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we're sat here scrambling around for names is kind of indicative of the problem that we're in. And it's not just Leicester, weirdly. There is a dearth of managers somehow at the minute. And yeah, because who are we appointing? Are we appointing a firefighter, or are we, appointing a foreman? I mean, I don't really know what those metaphors are, but
I think it has to be short term at the moment. I mean, how can we look for long term? We don't even know what division we're going to be in.
I think that's the big point, isn't it? We just don't know. We don't know a lot. We don't know how many points we're going to get deducted, if any. We don't know when. We don't know whether, and obviously that'll be the knock-on effect of where we are in the table and whether we can build ourselves back up and get enough points to survive and stay in the Championship. It's all lots of question marks and all up in the air, and I think that's the part that we're all struggling with, that we just don't know. I mean, we've mentioned some names there. We've mentioned some old timers who might be able to do a job in interim kind of thing. We haven't mentioned anyone particularly up and coming, any names, any young people. We've not mentioned anybody. I'll throw this out there: a Jamie Vardy player manager type of thing, or kind of thing. Obviously, I'm just throwing a name out there, and I'm pretty sure.
Don't think relations with in at the moment.
Yeah, 0.01% kind of thing. But it's something silly like that. You just
Roy
don't
Keane.
know. Yeah, again, it's just names, and I think you're completely right. We just do not know where we are as a club, and I think it's just filtered down through the whole club as a fan base, as players, and it's just, like I say, it's indicative of the way the club is at the moment.
We've lost our identity. We've not got an identity. The club it's just nobody knows. It's like a circus act at the minute. That's all.
There was an interesting thing in the statement that they the sacking statement. Now, obviously, most of it just read like every single sacking statement that's ever been released, but there was a little bit where they said that they were getting rid of him because we didn't think he could meet our season objectives.
What
What was our objectives?
Well,
What did we want this season? What were we doing?
I've caught a little bit of the When You're Smiling podcast that was on earlier, and I think it's something to do with our targets were playoffs. According to, I think they've spoken to Top this evening or this afternoon, I think, and they've had an interview with Top. And according to that podcast, the When You're Smiling podcast, it was that our targets were playoffs. Obviously,
that's still the target. That's what he said.
The target, yeah. I think obviously, if we don't get the points deduction and we can get some kind of turnaround, we are not that far away. But
we need a striker first.
Yeah, tell me about that. Yeah, I mean, interesting that Tony's come up with the guy at Cardiff, and I think that's that Brian Murphy that was.
He was coaching stuff
briefly. Yeah, he was here briefly with this kind of thing, but he's doing a sterling job again. Would you want to take over Leicester City when you're doing a decent job getting Cardiff back into the Championship next season? It's not something that I think I'd be doing.
I don't think
neutral.
I don't think we'll be appointing a manager from a different club. I don't think we'll be able to pay any compensation whatsoever. So it's going to be either a free agent or Andy King to the end of the season. That's all I can
mean, even Marti took a pay cut to come to Leicester, effectively.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
I mean, I was reading about it earlier. Like we paid QPR 500 grand, but then he forego a bit of his contract that he was owed so that he could come. And, kind of, it comes up a lot with like, why would you go and play for Man United when they're such a mess, or Tottenham, or whoever it might be, the crisis team of the week in the Premier League? Now, obviously, the answer is always money, right? And you say, could we get a good manager from League One or the other Championship? Your natural instinct would go, oh, well, money. Could we pay realistically more than most clubs in the Championship or the League One pay their managers? I don't think it would be such a massive jump that you would relocate your family or come over.
Especially with the uncertainty that we are. Obviously, we've had Rude for a few months. We had Steve Cooper before that for a few months. We've had now Marti for 6 months. So you're completely right. Same with, Planet Earth put here about Mark Robbins. It'd be a great choice, but prize him away from Stoke. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. And he's throwing the name of Steven Gerrard again. Obviously, Frank's come down and done a job at Coventry City, but obviously they're in a better place than us at the minute.
Steven Gerrard's an interesting idea, actually. Winning the league with Rangers was a big achievement. It shouldn't be like dismissed just because it's Scotland and it's Rangers in Scotland, because they're not the Rangers in Scotland of 20 years ago. He obviously struggled at Aston Villa, and his time at Aston Villa has been slightly made to look worse because of how good Unai Emery's done. He did fail in Saudi Arabia. We shouldn't. But then what does that actually mean in reality? Like, what is it actually like being there? It's a completely different world. So that's not a bad idea. He certainly would have
connection.
Yeah, and the players would be like, "Oh, it's Steven Gerrard."
And if it's an interim appointment as well, obviously only until the end of the season, it still opens him up for a job elsewhere. If he does a good job, keeps us in the league. Like I say, it opens him up for a job in the Premier League, which is probably what he's eyeing up. But again, we are a Premier League club in everything but name and in stature currently at the minute. We have the facilities, we have the fan base, we have a squad that's probably still underachieving, that are probably capable of still making it into those playoffs. So someone like that it could be a free hit for them to come in and have a go for till the end of the season with no strings attached kind of thing. Because again, like I say, it puts him in the shop window, and if he does sort something out and gets us going, the only question mark would be that it's not a long-term appointment unless he is going to take us back into that Premier League within 18 months, which is where he wants to be, because I'm sure a job will come up very soon in the Premier League that he'll be more than interested with.
Yeah, and it'd be quite funny if he carried on wearing the traditional Middle Eastern robes as well. But I just hope that Top and Rudkin are not talking about it like we are. But my fear is that they are sat in Seagrave going, well, what about,
We've got people with a dartboard and they're just going to throw a dart and wherever it hits. That'll do.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me because again, I'm not confident in what their ability is to. We've seen it the last few appointments where I'm not confident in their ability, and that's why there needs to be some kind of change. Just because it needs a fresh pair of eyes. It 100% needs a fresh pair of eyes there. So right, we're coming up to almost an hour, so we'll aim to finish there. But I'm going to get your final thoughts, both of you, just on what happens over the next to the end of the season. Then let's go, James first. What do you think is going to happen to the end of the season? Can you see an appointment for till the end of the season? Can you see a long-term appointment, or just give us your thoughts on what you think is going to
happen? I think the most likely thing is that King ends up being appointed till the end of the season because that's the easiest option. And Leicester have often taken the easiest option in the last couple of years. It's always easier not to make a decision than it is to make it. On my first ever appearance on this podcast at the start of the season, I said that if we get a points deduction, we're going to be in a relegation fight. Everyone laughed at me, right? I would like to say that everybody else on that podcast predicted that we'd win the league. So that's my main concern, is that we might go down. And I think that's actually quite a realistic possibility. But given how stretched the Championship is in terms of its competitiveness, as you say, we win 5 games in a row now. Say we could actually be in the playoffs. So yeah, I would say that King will get appointed until the end of the season, and we will hopefully only get 6 points deducted, and we kind of just trudge along until the end of the season. Like a horse with a fracture rather than a broken leg.
Ashley, what do you think is going to happen between now and the end of the season?
I'm pretty much on similar with what James just said. To be fair, I think it will be Andy King to the end of the season because it is the easiest option and probably the cheapest option available for. And I don't necessarily think that's the right way to go. I'm not saying that King's going to do a bad job. I hope he does well, but I just think it's a big task for your first, managerial job, shall we say, in inverted commas. But personally, I think we'll just about stay up, hopefully. I can't see us going on a winning spree of like 5 in a row. We're just not good enough. The mentality is not there. The defensive structures non-existent. And I think they're actually in a rut now. That it's actually more mentally than anything, and they crumble too much under pressure. Maybe hopefully we will get the manager bounce that Norwich have got, having replaced their manager, and the manager bounce seems to work, don't it? So hopefully it works for us. But yeah, it's just it could go either way. It's just the complete shambles at the moment.
Yeah, that's all I agree. We'll look to end it right there, but just a couple of comments from other people. Obviously, John O's here again. He's saying, like I say, we need to get someone in till the end of the season, just steady the ship, and get the right person in for a rebuild. Who else have we got? Planet Earth. Hello, Planet Earth. He's saying hopefully Top's watching the show and hoping we inspire him with some names. However, he has said later on that he doesn't want King. We need to manage to organise for next season, which is an interesting point. We've got hello Paulo Stevenson. He said obviously it happened in 1991. David Pleat was sacked, and then they put Gordon Lee and Ali Mocklin in charge. Interesting again, like you say.
You need to give us your opinion, Andy. This is not the BBC.
Say again.
You need to give us your opinion. This is not the BBC.
My opinion. Well, my opinion is that I'm probably with you guys on the Andy King till the end of the season, and that's blatantly because I just don't know who else we could go and get that's available and won't cost anything. I've got to have a really good think about it, I think, and I think that's why I can see Andy King doing a job for us intermittently just until the end of the season. I don't want him long term because I just think we need somebody with experience who's going to do that rebuild with us. That's why I want somebody like a Mark Robbins or a Neil Lennon, somebody who's going to have a long-term effect on us. I can re-sort our culture and traditions and identity out. And that's where I'm at. And I think that's key. For now, I think the number one job is for us to stay in the Championship, make sure that we steady that ship, as quite a lot of you have said, and then move on from there, really. So, yeah, that's my opinion. I think we'll look to end it there, guys. I appreciate Ashley coming on and James coming on very last minute, obviously, both of you, for the emergency podcast. Head over to www.forfoxsake.news to subscribe to us. Obviously, we're going to bring you lots and lots of news over the next few days. I've got to go and rewrite what my 5 things I learned from yesterday is all about. So hopefully that will come. Obviously, I think Rob and Pete will be back later this week with more podcasts. So I'm sure this conversation will continue. But thank you, guys, for coming on. Everybody who's coming on and listened or watched, we appreciate it. And keep us. Hopefully, we'll get going and we can have a new era of Leicester City. So thank you very much, guys. See you next time.
Like, subscribe, comment.